Huh? What day is it? Wait a minute, it's March 3rd. Today is the 2nd anniversary of the Nintendo Switch's launch. We gotta bite a birthday cake. Oh, look at this little console. You've grown up to be so big and strong in these first 2 years. I'm so proud of you. You've got great games, you do good stuff. Today, we're gonna enjoy just a little bit of cake. I mean, after all, you've earned it. Look how great you've become. But today, we're actually going to do a little bit of roasting. Let's talk about everything that's good and bad about the first 2 years of Nintendo Switch. Oh, you're going to get it.
What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the Nintendo Switch, because of course today is its very important and very freaking awesome 2nd anniversary. I've had this console since launch, and I've gone from kind of being against it to being very, very for it. It's hard to deny that this is quite possibly one of the most important Nintendo consoles ever, mostly because after the abysmal failure of the Wii U, they needed this thing to be an absolute hit, and surprisingly, they pulled it off. There is so much about this thing that I could just talk about all day long. But today, what I want to try and do is basically count down the 3 things I absolutely love about this thing in its first 2 years, and the other 2 things that I really, really hate. Let's start off positive by just looking at the fact that this has a crazy library of games. There is just so much to play. I mean, seriously, if I was stuck on a desert island and I could only have one system in my pocket, I would definitely choose this. I mean, you've got Mario Odyssey, games like Celeste that play exceedingly well, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and of course one of my favorite shooters of all time, Splatoon 2. Each of these is very, very different, and I feel like it's beginning to show us that there is the dawn of a new age of Nintendo going on. All new people are taking over. While many of us grew up loving the creative, talented people of yesteryear like Shigeru Miyamoto, you can tell that a new generation is actually beginning to take hold. There's younger producers, younger developers, and because of it, I really feel like a lot of their games have a much fresher spark to them. I mean, something like ARMS is just so different than anything else Nintendo has produced, and so for it, it actually has a really cool feel to it. Which really kind of brings me into the second thing that I really, really love about Switch that just blows my mind more than anything else, which is the crazy third-party support. Now, in the past, Nintendo has managed to secure some pretty good third-party contracts, and especially during stuff like the Super Nintendo era, they were a juggernaut. But something about this, it seems different. It seems to be even sharper. People are doing whatever they can to get their games on Switch. Even if it's an older port, they will do whatever they can to be on this system. And beyond this, I feel like there's a lot of really, really passionate people who are trying to make sure that sometimes the best version of their game is on Switch. What I mean by that is look at stuff like freaking Dark Souls. I mean, Dark Souls on Switch runs super, super good as a handheld. Or even things like Rocket League, which actually have exclusive Nintendo content when you play it on this thing. And I think that it shows that people are not just happy with the Switch, they love it. People actually want to make sure their games run exceedingly well, no matter the cost. I mean, just look at something like Fortnite. I'm actually really, really impressed that there are now always online games, or Warframe. Warframe on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this is just not getting a normal release. These games are getting constant updates, constant refreshes, constant things to make sure that they are just as big and cool as Nintendo fans actually deserve. But I do want to actually bring up one thing that I feel like I do downright despise about the Switch, which just seems to get worse and worse. The Nintendo eShop. This is something that's supposed to be rather straightforward, but is just unnecessarily clunky. I mean, just putting it on the screen right here, it's just so overwhelming. I think that one of the downsides of the fact that there is so much third-party support is that now there's beginning to be a little bit of an ocean where everybody is trying to get front page, the most attention, the most, engagement. And so because of it, you are now just being absolutely bombarded with millions of dumb banner ads, games you haven't heard of. There are on average like 30 new games a week coming out for Nintendo Switch, and a lot of them are shovelware. It's unfortunate to say that, but it's the truth. And so if you're just trying to dig through to find the game you actually want, like in my case, if I was looking for La Grande Legacy, I thought that this was a really cool RPG. But if I was just trying to find it in the store, it could be a little bit difficult to try and surf through pages and pages of weird things that are called like Clicker Plus to find the actual real content. And there still isn't a way to really streamline this. I wish that there was a way that we could review games on the eShop and then people could actually search by an optimized system where you just want to look at the 5-star games or see the stuff that's actually made by a certain developer. It's frustrating because since there is just so much amazing stuff on Switch, I hate that I have to sometimes swim through absolute garbage to try and find it. It should not be this dumpster fire task to find another new game to play. But beyond this, I think there is a lot of stuff to still be celebrated about the Nintendo Switch, but personally, the thing that actually makes me the most happy about this is the fact that, in my opinion, it is a very gimmickless system. There isn't forced motion controls, I don't actually need like amiibos to get a lot of the functionality out of it. This is such a straightforward system. It has a lot of optional gimmicks if you want it, so you can detach a Joy-Con and use motion controls, or if you want, you can actually do all sorts of special things like turn on things where if you're moving it around you can aim. I like the fact that that stuff is in a lot of games but is totally optional. Like the other day when I was playing Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. It's cool to me that certain puzzles have the option where if I want, I can actually press the screen to do certain stuff, but if I want, I can also just do it with the triggers. It feels like Nintendo has realized that while these optional things are interesting, people prefer them to be optional. Do not force somebody to interact with a gimmick if it's avoidable. It's so cool though because there is certain stuff that I ended up liking just because it was a choice. Like when you're lock-picking in Skyrim on Nintendo Switch, you actually can tilt your hands to pick locks and feel within the vibration of the controller each of the pins beginning to vibrate. It feels like an actual improvement upon a game that I already super dig. And I feel like the absolute best gimmick stuff should be like that. With that being said though, I do believe that there is one gimmick about the Switch that is unavoidable and something we have to talk about, which is the fact that obviously this thing is a handheld. Now, I usually refer to it as a console because in my opinion that's sort of what it is, but it is also a freaking handheld. This is something that straight up you can play anywhere, anytime, and that is such a great thing. Being able to play things like Stardew Valley or one of my very favorite games of all time, Golf Story. These are super good, super unique experiences that are playable anywhere, anytime, but only with the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm somebody who absolutely loved things like the Game Boy and the PSP, and this definitely feels like a melding of those ideas. It's trying to provide a giant experience in a tinier format, and I feel like it very much functions to such an insanely smooth degree. It is definitely my favorite aspect of this thing, but it does also bring me to what I consider the biggest drawback. Now, I know some people are going to get upset about this and try and roast me in the comments, but I just think that this thing still does not have a good battery life, which to me can be very annoying. So at this point, I almost exclusively play my Switch while traveling. I actually hang out with people a lot, I go around, I do stuff a lot of times, and so because of it, I always keep a Nintendo Switch in my backpack. Like just last night, I was actually hanging out with some friends and they were doing a Spider-Man photo shoot, and I was one of the characters. And it was really nice that I could actually stop, and when it wasn't my turn, to just sit off to the side and play Tetris 99 and actually completely lose because I suck at that game. It was so great, but unfortunately, the batteries die on this thing relatively quick, and the better the game you're playing, it seems like, the faster they die. I love Diablo 3 more than anything else. I am such a Diablo 3 fanboy, but if I'm actually playing couch co-op with my girlfriend, this thing is usually only going to last about 2.5 hours, which I will fully admit ends up making it where if I'm playing this without a charger nearby, I end up trying to think about what is going to make my battery last the longest. Should I play Final Fantasy IX because it sapped the charger charged lower? Or should I just instead try and play Breath of the Wild with 0 screen brightness and no audio to see just how long it'll last? To me, that is still a drawback. I mean, I'll actually say I would pay more to get a Switch that has a battery life. I mean, straight up, if there was even a function where I could attach something to the back with all my little corgi butts and play it on the go longer, I would totally get an add-on like that. It's not necessarily a huge detriment, it's just something that I feel like, since this thing is such a perfect portable device, it irks me whenever I see that low battery notification pop up. But this has just been my personal opinion. What do you think about the first 2 years of the Nintendo Switch? Is there anything in this that just absolutely melted your brain with hype, or is it something that you're still trying to warm up to? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh man, I love this thing. Seriously. I hope that year 3 is as good as year 2 was, because that one was epic as heck. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.